Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm gonna like to call the Highway and Waterways Committee meeting Thursday, February the 22nd, 2024 to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Carrico?
Present.
Mr. Dennell? Mr. Featherling?
Present.
Mr. Snipes? Mr. Miller?
Present.
Mr. Kirkstrad?
Present.
Mr. Smith?
Present.
Mr. Ashcraft? Ms. Ritmanick-Emmy? Present. Ms. Turner? Mr. Wheeler?
Present.
Mr. Alexander Hildebrand?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I think we're gonna need a motion to allow Mr. Wheeler into the meeting. Sammy and Smith, second. Everybody in favor signify by say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, same sign. Okay. Thank you. Is there any public comments? I don't have any public comments on my desk. Is there any public comment? You're none. I'd like to have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from January 18, 2024. Mr. Featherland. Okay, so that will be Miller, second. Everybody in favor signify by say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Under Waterways. First thing we have here is Aroma Park Sentiment Progress update. Is that Ben is going to be talking about that, or giving a little bit of the update today, or is that Andy, Ben?
I'm going to be hopeful, Mr. Chairman. If I could, can we wait a little bit for Charlie, maybe postpone this item? Charlie likely will be on, and if not, I'll give an update that we have from the planning department as it relates to the grant.
I thought it was. I think it's 17. Yeah. Is that on, Ben? Yeah, I have the button up.
I'll go stand at the back. Uh-oh.
Check.
All right. Yeah. Perfect.
Jason.
Thank you.
I guess for the record, if we could wait for Charlie so we have a motion amendment. I'd like to make a motion amend the agenda.
Okay. Second. All right. Everybody in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Same sign. All right. So, State Line Bridge update. Is that will be what, Andy? Do you have an update on that one?
The update would be that we finally have agreement that the bridge will be removed from state line from the Federal Highway Authority. I think I'd mentioned that before. Those things are moving forward, and it is now something that is in the planning phase of how they're going to do it. And accordingly, I've asked for some information from Greg, and we'll get to that in a minute, regarding the kitty of money that we had set aside for reconstruction of a bridge. I cannot remember exactly, because it's been so long, how much we had set aside as our portion of the new bridge that was going to go there. But if you may remember, we thought it was going to be around 2 or 3 million. It was bid out, I believe it was 9. And that's without doing the approaches, and it was wholly really just an amount of money that was too much for any of us to bear. So I just wanted to let the committee know that that is a very good thing. If you look at the pictures, I don't know if they're up on the screen or not. I apologize. That it is a cow catcher for trees, and if that bridge were to come into the river, it falls on the Illinois side. So there's a series of questions that I asked Greg regarding the funding for removal. If in fact we are on the hook for removing, can we use the MFT money and things like that that we had set aside for reconstruction for dismantling? So those are other things that we have to consider as we go forward. So I guess, is there any questions about that? There'll be more paperwork to come, if you will, because literally maybe a 3-inch strip along the side of the bridge is in Illinois. But as I mentioned, if it falls, it's all going to be in Illinois. So.
Questions? Randy, any comments? No? All right.
All right. So, Greg, did you have any answers to that, or were we able to use MFT for removal, dismantling, all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I had that further down, but I'll get to it now. In the budgets that I inherited, we had been estimating the cost of the bridge to be built to be as 2.2 million, and our share would have been 220,000 or 10%. With, I guess it says others sharing. I assume that's Lake County sharing in that 220.
Newton too. Yeah.
So after checking the road and bridge laws, sure, county bridge fund, we can use that money to build bridges, but we cannot use that fund to tear bridges down. But we can use MFT money to tear that down, or to dismantle it and relocate it, whatever you want to call it. So not a big deal. We didn't have a lot of money in our budget under county bridge, and if we transfer that over to MFT, it's not going to be a killer.
Okay. I didn't know if the committee had other questions about the funding of that, but the more discussion that I'll have with Lake County, the last conversation I had with them in Indiana is that they would pay for the dismantling on their own. I was just trying to be prepared if they came back and you know, asked us to pay for the tip, so to speak, you know.
Sure. Go ahead.
At one time, Andy, I had read in something that we had papers that I have accumulated at home that they were looking for volunteers in Indiana to take that bridge down at one time. Just like in the last few months, they had an article in one of the newspapers, and I think it was in Knox or something, where they're trying to put together a group of people to dismantle it and stack it somewhere along the river so that it would be out of the way, because they don't really have any place to store it. So I didn't know if that was still a chance or what that was.
No, apparently they have a place to store it, and I wouldn't want any part of that liability whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that no way.
Yeah.
So it's good that people care. And by the way, that bridge used to be across 17, I believe, that went by Fisherman's Wharf, Skeeters, the office now. That's where that bridge used to be back in the 20s.
Yeah.
So I'm told.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Questions? Comments? Nope. Done here. All right. Moving on to the river access discussion. Ben?
So for the front 2 or 3 slides of my PowerPoint and the grant update, we'll cover this, and you don't necessarily have to go through them, but I guess for...
I have it on.
We're not on. We are on.
It's just not coming through.
It's off again. Can you do this one? You won't see.
Is this one on now? All right,
Yeah,
look at that.
It is on.
All right, so on the PowerPoint, I have a little information about the grants we have, but I tried to kind of front load it with some topics that we want to talk about from an access standpoint. And I know at the full board this last month we were talking about acquiring Eagle Island and using that as an access point. And I guess what I want to do a little bit is have a discussion about the access points we do have, and also something that we heard from the gallery during that meeting. And I'm going to request from this committee if we can move forward with the state's attorney's office to talk to the adjacent property owners that offered access from their properties. And it was said as part of the meeting, not maybe as part of the dialogue or testimony, though, that the owners that were in the room were willing to give us access through their properties. So I would like to formally address that by approaching them with an easement agreement so we could use their property to access the river. Because you'll remember from the conversation on Eagle Island, we still do not have access from the KBSR or Bridge Street in, 17 to Moments at the dam. So we don't have any access there. We have 2 access points we're proposing, and we've got an engineering proposal for that. But that's one of the segments of the river that we still don't have access to. So with the blessing of this committee, I would like to work with John and Terry upstairs to get an easement put together, because just saying, hey, you can use our property is great, but in 5 years, we're going to want to have regular access through that property. And if they're willing to offer that, I think that would be an awesome opportunity for us.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Ben about that? No? That's going smoothly.
Can we get a motion to engage them, maybe?
Can you state your motion, please?
Let them go ahead and set up with the state's attorney's office to set up some river access and easement agreements.
Okay. Madeline? Mr. Miller? All right. Everybody, go ahead.
I wanted to ask them that.
Oh, okay.
Any other area that we see that we might need access to now? I know Fanny's probably got it on a map somewhere where the other spots are, but I was told that a lot of the farmers in the area would be happy to let us use their spot, you know, to get in and out of the water. So I don't know if there's more properties that you were looking at, you might want to approach other people too, or whether it's just this one particular one. Is this the only access we won't have access to downside of that bridge? Upside of that bridge, I mean?
So, I mean, when you really break the segments of the river down, there's underground obstructions, there's aerial obstructions. When we talk about the major obstructions, we're talking about the dam in Kankakee to Aroma Park at Bridge Street to 17 to the dam in Moments, and then the dam in Moments to State Line Bridge. There are other segments there where potentially, and Greg knows more about the equipment than I do. I mean, these you're gonna have long arms on the excavators, and just because you can get a boat through there doesn't necessarily mean we'll be able to get all of our equipment through there. So there's gonna be some nuance to defining river access. But this area, if there are other landowners along there that you've talked to that are interested in offering us an easement for access, that would be fantastic. I just know at that meeting, at the county board meeting, the members who were in attendance had mentioned that they were willing to do that. Now, we as a government entity, that's a fantastic offer. Things get said a lot. The only way we could ensure access would be to make sure we have an easement on the property. And it does change the way in which we would approach it. But certainly being able to, if you've got another landowner who wants to offer us an easement anywhere along the river, I mean, obviously it needs to make sense. You know, we'd have to be able to design the access. But certainly we're willing to look into that. But this segment specifically, we're still absent an access.
Okay.
Any other questions for him? Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the motion should be that the state's attorney and not Ben engages in conversations. Or the state's attorney's office.
Yes.
So, Mr. Fedlin, can you restate your
Yeah, make
your
that
motion.
change.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Can you restate
I'll let
your,
the state's attorney's office negotiate a letter of easement with properties in the area we might need for river access in the future.
okay. Mr. Miller, a second. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We have a motion on the floor. Everybody in favor signify by say aye.
Of course.
You have a question, sir?
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Snyder?
So what my understanding is that we're moving this to the state's attorney to determine any additional easements or that could be considered. What are we?
We're moving this to the state's attorney's office to draft the easement language and negotiate with the property owners to establish the easement.
In the event that they decide that they want to.
Yeah, I mean, that was what was offered during the meeting. I think this is a good way for us to get access along those based on that offer. It's sometimes when things in the gallery are said, they're offered. You know, I don't know if that sways the decision a board would make, But for us, we still need access along those points, and we're going to leverage that certainly if we can.
Okay, so basically the homeowner retains the property, but they're granting us I guess the proposal is they're going to grant us a right to easement to have access to the river.
Yes.
Versus the county actually owning an entrance point.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, is that all? All right. So, let's go ahead and vote. Everybody in favor, signify by say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The same sign. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Access point engineering agreement.
So, kind of in the same topic here, we, the chairman and I have drilled through this with Dell, looked at, countless potential private locations, public locations, potentials that look like the topography is good for a river access where we don't have the obstructions in the way, close enough to a road, whatever that may be. And we've found what we believe would be 5 good locations for river access. We control 2 of them. So that was the map that was up a little bit earlier. So that's the river at I-57, and that's the 2 or 3 properties at Laurel Lane that we acquired. So that's a FEMA buyout and an IDNR buyout. So we engaged a local engineering firm to put together estimates for us. I believe kind of the move right now is to get blessing from this committee and to move it forward to finalize. But in having the 5 locations, because we do not control those locations, I just want to really talk about the 2 locations. And really, we should probably be engineering locations we control. We're going to continue to talk with our partners. One of them is a village, one of them is a park district. I mean, these should be good partners for us, but we haven't really made enough steps to announce that we're doing this, and I think that's untimely. But we would like to move forward with these 2 locations from a design engineering standpoint to develop river access, so ramps at all, whatever that might entail, site improvements, knowing that these are floodplain properties and that we're going to have to do a good bit of extra work making sure that we satisfy all the requirements of the combined permit. And this is very similar to the work we do at Roman Park Boat Launch, where there's a lot of permitting, a lot of work that goes into that. So we wanted to kind of start that process. And so we've received some costs on the whole package, but I think we're going to kind of a la carte that, and we'd like to maybe talk through that a little more with finance as far as getting a price identified to get the expenditure allotted. But these are the 2 locations we want to move forward with now because these are the 2 we control.
So Ben, if I understand you, are you asking for this committee to maybe make a recommendation or make a vote to send this to the finance?
That's correct.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions, any comments? Made a motion. Who's seconding the motion? Okay. Ms. Emmy, second. Okay. No other comments, questions for? Okay. Chairman Wheeler?
Just for the committee's sake, the engineering, I believe, for the 5 sites averaged, the preliminary engineering was averaging, I believe, $25,000 a site. So there was another thing mentioned in a committee meeting sometime back that was way higher than that. I just wanted to put some reality towards what those numbers look like. Thank you.
So if this pass go to the finance, it's gonna come back to us afterward for reevaluation then?
Well, I mean, if finance authorizes these 2, I think we can segment them off and move them to the full board for authorization. I mean, it might require some rework on the proposal to not have it include all of the work. I mean, the original proposal I believe that we received has construction engineering. It was kind of a full package from the engineering team. So you might see a number in there that looks bigger than the number should be from when we talk about engineering it. But yeah, it's engineering, permitting, and construction engineering was included in that number. But we want to move forward with just 2 sites You know, I'm not going to hold to a $50,000 number, but it should be pretty close to that. But we'll discuss that through at finance and make sure we've got kind of our ducks in a row on that one from the grant.
Okay, great. Mr. Snipes, can you restate your motion, please?
We want to state the motion to say that we're moving it on to finance.
Okay.
You wanted anything else included in that? Okay, just moving it over to
That was
finance.
it? Okay. All right. Sammy, are you okay with that?
Oh, yes,
Okay. Great, it's okay. All right. So got a motion on the floor, so everybody in favor, signify by say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Same sign. Okay, motion carries, thank you. The Kankakee River Basin Advisory Commission membership, who has that information? I believe will be Andy or was Charlie? Andy, do we have information?
No, I do have that, but I would defer back to Charlie so we can get him on his way if he wants to give us the aroma sediment, and we could pick it back up.
Okay, go ahead. Charlie, you have the mic.
Appreciate it. Sorry for joining a little bit late here. Yeah, so Aroma Park, basically we have design pretty much finished, and our status is pretty much the same. We have 3 permits that we have filed to conduct dredging work in front of the boat ramp. We have a permit with the Army Corps of Engineers, with the Illinois Department of Environmental, Illinois EPA, excuse me, and then also the Illinois DNR. So we have had good response from those agencies. They're reviewing our information. We anticipate approvals this spring, and we will have also a draft document of what we would call a bid document, draft bid document ready for Chairman Wheeler very shortly here. So basically that's an anticipation for when we get permits. You know, as soon as we get those permits in hand, the environmental permits from all 3 agencies, we will be able to turn loose to receive bids. So I feel pretty positive about the direction everything is headed. If there's any specific questions anybody is curious to know, just let us know. But the situation is pretty much the same. The design is basically done, and that we're just awaiting for permits at this time.
Any questions? Mr. Federland.
Will we get a copy of the drawing when you're finished with all your engineering stuff on it? I don't know if Andy has one or not. I don't know for sure. Do you have an updated plat, Andy, for the river project?
Chairman Wheeler should have the last version of drawings we did. We can issue it. We can basically what we can do is clean it up and put an issued for bid on it, a draft issued for bid, and then distribute it back to Chairman Wheeler. And then if he wants to distribute that to any other parties, they can look at it. It really, I will say, it really has not changed hardly at all from what was last presented to the board, even last summer in 23.
Yes.
So you shouldn't see much change, but yes, we can get a copy.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions? Okay, Mr. Chairman Wheeler.
Thank you. I'm dropping internet every once in a while, so if I freeze up, I apologize. Charlie, you had mentioned that I think it was DNR wanted to know what we were doing with the sand. So while, if you could explain that, we were first advised that it's part of the bidding process, that we're not going to have to find a place. This is more, it seems like this is a security blanket for them to tell us that there is a place. Is that accurate? And what should we do as far as reaching out to the couple of people who have mentioned that they would take sand?
Yeah, so basically what this is the permit agency wants to know that the fill is not going back in or not being discharged back into a waters of the U.S. So once we remove the fill from Kankakee River, they want to ensure that its final resting place is not in a wetland or another river system. So basically, if you give them a placeholder location of, I think this may be the resting place, that, and it shall be outside the floodplain, that will be good enough for permitting purposes. At a later time, we can have the contractor that you choose select the final location. We can then submit an updated memo back to the agency saying, this location has changed. Out of due diligence, here's the new location. As long as the location stays outside the floodplain, floodway, and wetlands, we're good to go. So really, this is just a draft location, in my opinion, a placeholder, and it can be 50% probability you're going to use it, and I think that would be fine. That's my opinion of it.
No documentation or anything. They don't need a copy of the email that was sent by the receiver, if you will, or
it's really just it's an exhibit. So if you give me basically the property, I'll outline it on an exhibit and send it in saying 10,000 cubic yards will be distributed here, and I'll basically put a footprint on a map with a box, and that's essentially all I believe they will need.
Thank you.
Mr. Featherland?
Has anything been done about as far as studying the sand and see exactly what it is, or the nitrogen and phosphorus and decaying leaves and things like that are in there? If somebody knows what they're getting, it might be easier to get rid of. Because we don't have anything. All we know is that it's sand, and I would say it's got nitrogen from the decaying leaves and phosphorus from that stuff. But I don't know what else is in there as far as they call them forever chemicals that don't go away, and those are the things that most places are concerned about. They don't want you putting something on their property that's got something bad in it. So probably anybody that's going to want to take any of this is going to want to know exactly what it is before they get it.
Yeah, I will say my take on this is that the sandbar that's part of the sandbar that's coming out, and then the portion of sand that's on the bottom of the river that's being dredged, it's clean sand. However, it has not been chemically tested. I will say there are a number of state agencies that have records of testing Kankakee River, and it's not flagged currently for any it's not flagged as an impaired waterway, if that makes sense. So when the Illinois EPA does their testing, if there is an impairment with nitrogen or phosphorus or E. coli or anything of that, they will flag the stream in their database. Kankakee is not a flagged stream. As far as I know, it's pretty clean. So we could have testing done as a supplement if that's what Chairman Wheeler and the board want us to do. We could do that, but it hasn't been done at this time. There's no reason to believe it's not clean sand.
Yeah. Hey, there's a project going in is that DeKalb that's on the river, the Illinois River, where they're putting the sand onto the farm fields in the area so they don't have to disperse it far, and they're using the free chemicals that are in it, basically scattering on the ground helps soften some soil, and I don't know if that gets back into the river or not, if it gets put into a farm field, if they disc it in or how they would work it, but that's stuff we could find out real easily, So I didn't know if you knew anybody in that area that was running that project over there, in the dredge project in Decatur, Illinois, on the Illinois River. Do you know any of the engineers that are doing that project over there? See if I heard they were they had theirs tested, so I don't know for sure if it was. They have a sheet of paper that says, I'm sure ours is pretty much the same as what they got over there. Probably a lot cleaner though. It probably doesn't have as much bad stuff in it, I would say.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it depends on whether the sand gets used as basically just fill, or if it's going to be used as an application for the field. Then for agricultural purposes, you would want to probably test it to make sure that's not, nutrient wise, what does it have?
Yeah. I just
But we
think,
can definitely get that question answered as we get closer to the bidding. And if any testing needs to be done, just Chairman Wheeler let us know, and we can send out an environmental team, collect a couple samples.
okay, because like I said, it'd be nice if we could not have to take it very far and hurt many roads, or, do a lot to the area, damage the ground or whatever, but I don't know if it has to do with the time of year. I'm sure it does. You can't put it out there in August when the crops are growing, but that would mean having to put it somewhere until they could put it on the fields, I think. But I think that way, kind of keep everything close to home would be best, I think. And then we could maybe save some funds instead of hauling 550 truckloads to, 100 miles away or something, to get to put it in a dump where they actually clean it or whatever. So, but we can check that out.
Mr. Snipes.
While I appreciate the conversation, I kind of want to, because some of us have to work, if we can just kind of keep kind of point of order just to the subject matter, please.
Any other comment or question? Mr. Wheeler?
Yeah, the haul away and the disposal is part of the bidding contract. I'm not inclined to engage Burke and spend more money on something that's not our end of things. So you'd have to find 15 people to engage in this goose chase, Mr. Featherling, to agree with you. Thank you.
And I have to agree, actually, Charlie and Mr. Wheeler on that, because we need to watch a little bit not to start incurring any more expenses on the project if we're going to have biddings going on. It can be easily be, probably absorbed by third parties, I guess. All right. Is that all, Charlie? Is that everything you have for us?
Yeah, that's all I have for now. I'm going to have a memo to Chairman Wheeler later this month, and it'll essentially state the same thing.
Okay, thank you very much. Back to the Kankakee River Basin Advisory Commission membership.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The much like the advisory commission for the animal welfare, we have always discussed informally that we are going to need a series of our local river community to, I want to say, suggest, prioritize in the eyes of the community, feed information up, much like the regional planning commission is, to investigate certain things. I would say people that are somewhat subject matter experts in their own area, whether it be boating, fishing, obviously the farming community, and so I've taken the time to take a look at some of the other organizations / governmental bodies that are out there that are part of other commissions. And while there's not a lot of work to do right now, as we have seen, this takes a long time to get these things going. At some point, this commission this board may want to bring in the public to start prioritizing and vetting our projects, things that people want to see here. I always use the example of, I would love to see a positive, respectful argument between boaters and fishermen over log jams, the habitat versus obstruction. Those things probably should be discussed between the people who have a vested interest, and then come as a recommendation to the county board. And you may agree or disagree, but that was a way that I thought we could feed the public into this process, because it is a long process, as we have seen. It took 100 years, and then we finally started this 5 or 6 years ago, as far as officially. So we're finally to the point of doing some work and then planning the future. So With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I was going to kind of throw the list out there and see if this is something the committee would want to, I won't say formally adopt, if you will, but send up to the executive committee to be debated and then approved. So first it's the concept, and then it would be the membership that I would throw out there, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
I thought a rotating boat club seat. Obviously, there's lots of boat clubs, and if they were to get the boaters' opinions, I thought that either every year or every 2 years that could flip between Aroma and Mantino, or excuse me, Moments and all the different boat clubs in the county. The Fishermen NIAA would be another one. The Farm Bureau, the rotating drainage district seat that preferably would be along the river. I would imagine everything feeds into the river, so there is always a vested interest there. Soil and Water, somebody from the Soil and Water, the Regional Planning Commission would have a seat. We should call out that it should not be a county board member. 3 at-large seats that are unaffiliated. They may be part of those organizations, but they're just individuals. They could be kayakers, they could be whatever, just people that want to get involved. And then I want to say almost ex officio, because they have their own legislated area, but the River Conservancy should be at the table as well, even though the county doesn't have jurisdiction over that part of the river from Moments all the way to the state line. I think that the establishment of that working relationship is important. So I didn't know if anybody had any questions about that, if there's any obvious things I'm missing. We can run through it if you like.
Mr. Snipes.
And I was thinking these appointments could probably happen in roughly October, because it seems like we'll be just got through the dredging and we're starting to get really our feet on the ground and organized for the future. Sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Snipes.
I have no objections, but a couple of concerns. The first is that while I do appreciate that we want to bring something together, I would not want to exclude at least a county board member, because we need to have a liaison when it's dealing with conversations. We do have this committee that kind of deal with issues along the river. So I think across the board that there should be some type of representation, not the majority, but at least one, to kind of have the county's ear, and that they're able to bring back information as things go with that committee or whatever would be a recommendation. And the other is just kind of put this framework into kind of a format of writing, so that we can recommend it to the executive committee from here, so that way we have everyone that, or at least an eye on those individuals that we're looking at throughout the county, just in case we might miss one or two that might want to be a part of it, or be a part of that particular board, independent of. Our family do own part of the river going all the way to Indiana, because we are on 114. So I just feel that if we have a representative from a committee or something that's on the board that has an ear on that respective committee that's being drafted, it's just you don't have the numbers to control it, but there's someone that's listening that can also bring information back to the board or to this committee when the need so arises. That's just my thoughts.
Mr. Wheeler, I'll get to you in a moment here. I have quite a few conversations with Chairman Wheeler about this advisory committee, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding, and I appreciate your comment, my understanding was that by having this committee, this commission advisory membership thing, and not having the board member in there, is because they're not gonna make a final decision. There's still gonna be recommendations be coming into this board, and it will be a very impartial kind of type of situation. So I'm sorry?
This advisory is to this board?
To this board, correct. Mr. Riddler?
Yeah, that's what I was going to point out. It's a subcommittee of this committee.
Right.
So if we wanted something like, okay, what are the top 5 priorities as far as the River Basin Advisory Commission? And then they would give us their top 5, and then we could say, okay, now we want to cost those out. Can we rank those as far as cost versus impact? You know, this is like helping us prioritize what our community wants, and then we can decide what's affordable and go from there.
Right.
We still retain the authority of the board, but we're looking for the expert opinions outside of that to guide us as we go forward.
Right. Okay. I think you probably understand a little bit better now the whole process, and it's just we're still going to be be making decisions and evaluating whatever they suggest, and then send it or not to the executive. Correct. Just to help us a little bit more. All right. Any other questions or comments on the advisory committee membership here? All right. At this time, you're not really asking for, it's just an update and understanding of this, Mr. Riller, if I'm correct?
Yeah, I can bring a resolution or something to vote on back if next month, if you would like to have that happen. We have time, so, I thought we should start this early because everything's early when you're talking about the river. It takes forever, it seems like.
I think I would like the idea maybe to have this back to this committee in the next month. If you can give the listing and then all the resolution on it, that would be perfect, because it gives us a little bit more time to start looking into and evaluating the other organization and other members that maybe want to be part of this advisory. Is that okay with you, Mr.
Yeah, and if somebody sees something glaring, my phone works and my email works, so let me know if I'm missing one of the river organizations there.
Yeah, let's start shaping that up a little bit more and then give some other ideas if you have any ideas on this.
Well, they will have to develop, bylaws, if you will. I don't want to say bylaws, but at least guardrails. So I think we should let the committee develop guardrails beyond what we impose versus, we're here for recommendations and not final decisions. Does the committee agree with that I don't have to come with full marching orders, because we would want them to actually help develop their own?
I prefer for maybe can we just get some help from the state's attorney to help with the development of some kind of guidelines when it comes to their what they have to follow?
Sure. Yeah, I could probably use AWAC as an example of how that works, because it's very similar in structure. So.
Right. Okay. We'll be back next month with a little bit more information on this. All right, thank you. I think Ben has some grant updates for us.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess this touches a little bit on Charlie's project as far as the Aroma Park sediment removal. We've actually just recently, like yesterday, processed a bill from DNR for the permit application. So this is a good sign. They've done their review. Then they send us, you can back up like 3 slides, Kelly. They sent us over, so we have an executed grant agreement with the state of Illinois. We are, as Charlie said, finalizing our designs for our vendor selection. And then we're trying to satisfy some outstanding grant requirements. And this has kind of been a tag team between Greg's team and mine as it relates to the grant, where every quarter we have to do a performance report and a financial report. And it's really easy to do financial reports when you have no bills, because you just turn in zeros. Right now we're currently turning in engineering bills, but as this ramps up, it's going to be a good bit more staff intensive to do. But one of the things that's outstanding right now, it's nice in that we haven't selected a vendor. We still have our MBE, so Minority Benefit Enterprise, Women Benefit Enterprise, and then our probably going to see a requirement for apprenticeship program under the Illinois Works Act. And so when you haven't selected a vendor, it's easy to kind of front load. So when Charlie finishes his documentation, we'll roll in our grant required documentation. So the bidders that come back will be able to satisfy that. It's a little more difficult on the other projects where we've they say, go ahead and do the project and then ask for reimbursement. We say, okay. And they say, well, did you follow all these rules? It's like, well, I didn't know those were rules. So fortunately for this project, we have received all of this information on the front end. So we'll get that all rolled in. So we'll make sure that the requirements of the grant agreement are met as it relates to Aroma Park dredging. And it was a very good sign for me to see that DNR letterhead. I mean, it costs money, obviously, but it's good to know that they've processed a lot of paperwork on their end and that they're moving forward in issuing that permit. So as far as the next couple are about the equipment, I wanted to talk a little. So that's the $1 million. Now we go on to the $7 million, and so $7 million is equipment, is a place to house that equipment, is some partnership pieces, and I guess one of the big pieces for me, I just want to reaffirm with this committee and probably the board in its entirety, going back to last month's county board meeting, I mean this month's county board meeting, the last county board meeting, we're going to be having some big pieces of equipment, and I just want to reiterate, there are quite a few places within the river where we cannot get without pestering a landowner along. Hopefully they're agreeing to it. Then we tear up their property. Then they want us to fix everything. And so it's a lot easier if we can really set these access points. And because the equipment is so large, it takes a good bit to get in and out. So I wanted to kind of show a little bit of some of the equipment we're talking about and just reiterate with this group and then hopefully remaining county board members that is this still something we really want to do? I think it is from this committee standpoint, but I was just a little taken aback at the vote where we're talking about river access. I want to make sure that everybody's kind of all on the same page. And so again, that the number one piece of equipment I'm showing there is that 230 GC. That's a huge excavator. It's likely going to be parked on a barge when it does work, like a spud barge, and it's going to have to be tugged up and down the river. Maybe it'll use its arm to move itself around. Potentially, depending on access, we might have more of a amphibious style track set up on it. These are all like vendor further questions that we'll have as we're selecting the final pieces. But we're going to show up in kind of a convoy. We're going to have our big chipper. We're going to have our chipper truck. We're going to have our low boy loaded with an excavator on it. We're going to have our barges, and we're going to be in and out of the river doing projects when time allows. Obviously, projects to protect our assets are the most important. So anything that's jammed up under a bridge that jeopardizes the structure itself will be a priority project. We would likely be doing that anyway, but it'll be nice because we have new equipment to do it. But then we'll be working on those other types of projects. And so the next slide just shows just some more pieces of equipment we're talking about. And I think the spud barge one is probably pretty telling. It's a huge chunk of steel. And so as we look at accessing the river, just maybe keep in mind that it's not as easy as dropping in your pontoon boat. It's quite more of an operation, and that's why we're very blessed to have Greg's team trained on not only operating these the pieces of equipment, but moving them around the county safely, making sure we're not tearing things up. And so there's a lot that will go on for this. And I just kind of want to reiterate, I think the next slide might be all of the, okay. We do one of these, I swear, every single time I do a project. It's kind of an eye exam for all of you, but this is a list of all of the equipment with costs, and then kind of here's our timeline. So we're in the second block, which is the January to March of 24, and Greg and I were required by the granting agency to show when we thought we might be spending money. So you'll see we're sort of spending a little bit of money right now, but really April 1st is when we started spending money, with kind of the height of that being in the end of this year. So October, December is the height of where we're spending our funds. So as we get to purchasing, as we finalize these orders, as we talk with the vendors and see what the best types of pieces of equipment are, we're going to have to then have access points for those pieces of equipment. And again, I'm talking about 30-foot wide ramps in order to get things in and out. And so Aroma right now is 31 feet wide. It's a nice size ramp. But when you go to Moments, let's say on the other side of the island, their access is probably like 16 feet wide, and the road accessing it has a big tree hanging over it. And so there's like a whole series of conversations we need to have about trying to get this type of equipment in and out. And I'm maybe hoping for some affirmation from this committee that this is still the plan, right? We're still kind of all walking together on this one, and because Greg's team at some point will be pulling the trigger on ordering things and telling the state this is the type of equipment we want, and it's going to get into the millions fast. Okay, all right. Go ahead and click the next one. So as part of this, there's actually one other. So we manage the DCO line items grants, and I'm not going to try and beat this over your head because we did this at yesterday at PZA, but we manage line item appropriations out of Senator Joyce's office to the tune of about $750,000, maybe a little more than that now. One of those is actually work done at Beckman Park. So we're working with the Kankakee Valley Park District to help get grant funds to them. They did the work. This money will be applied to that essentially to reimburse them for some of their funds. And then we have a portion of the $7 million also. So they got their own grant, and then we're going to make part of that $7 million available to them to help them out with their grant. We've been working with them. The state's attorney's office has been working with them. We still have an outstanding agreement that needs to be executed by the park district. So if you do have a partner at the park district, that would be fantastic. We've notified them. I know John's been working with them, but we'd like to get that executed to get that moving forward, because that secures for us another river access point. Because when you look at that segment, we're talking about having a location that's in Kankakee on this side of 57, and then, you know, with a partner that's a government entity. So we're not, again, asking a private landowner. We're not trying to do a borrow somebody's land or anything like that. So this is a critical piece for us as we look at the segments of our river. So that's still outstanding, but we're working through it, and hopefully I'll have a clean answer from John here coming forward. So can we go to the next one, Kelly?
Yeah.
All right, and again, we did discuss this a little bit, but I just want to touch on what grant management and grant administration looks like. You know, these grants as they come in, and we're talking about the development of a commission. There's going to be staffing of a commission, and we're talking about selecting vendors, going through the full procurement process, satisfying all the state standards, doing all of the reporting required, up through closing the grant out. So this is a 2+ year cycle of work. And it's something that is right now being split between really Greg and our staff in the planning department. And so there might be a further conversation kind of organization-wide to look at all of these grants, because this is, you know, $8 or $9 million worth of funds. There's another $6 million for the courthouse. It starts to kind of all pile up. And when you receive $20 million worth of grants, it might be helpful to have somebody looking at it that's their job. Just their full-time job being making sure, because the one thing, and this is, I think this might be Andy's biggest fear, we don't want to end up on the no-no list. We're a GATA certified entity. Steve and his team in finance do a fantastic job on all of our reporting. They really truly do good work for us, and they're absolutely available to my team every time we need them. And it's always fast. Chris does a great job, but we don't want to miss a reporting cycle. We don't want to get that letter from DCO, because it comes to me, it comes to Greg, it hits Andy's desk, and then we immediately will get the, what is this? Like, we do not want to be in jeopardy of, because we manage tons of grant funds, right, as an organization, and they're all tied to our one GATA certification. So we just want to make sure as we look at this, and we're blessed to have received these grants, but we want to make sure that we're not overextending ourselves and not meeting the requirements of the programs. Every grant agreement has a whole list of things that we're promising, and we want to make sure we meet those promises.
All right. Questions for Ben? Any questions? Any comments? No? All right. Thank you very much. All right. Moving on to the highway right now. I think Mr. Hayden has quite a few updates here, starting with the 900 road. Andy, go ahead. I think it froze. Go ahead, Andy. Andy, do you have a comment, question? Nope. Yeah.
I've got spotty internet. I apologize.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I just want to thank Ben and then to let the committee know that on that list is a $2.7 million sand trap So one of the things that the committee is going to have to decide is if they still want that, and if they do, they're going to have to decide where they would want to put that. That is within our jurisdiction. So those are some things that I thought would be relevant to mention. There's things on the list that you're going to have to decide how to deploy now and down the road. So that was it.
Okay. All right. Under highway, so Hayden, the 900 road update?
Yeah, this is the first three are pretty much updates. And the first one, we have some slides for 9,000 North in Manteno, the road project that's coming up. Next slide shows the location. Pretty much from Spruce Street on the east to short of Route 45 on the west. Our job matches up with the IDOT job, the interchange job. We've been working together with their designers to make sure that we both come to a meeting and we don't have a hump in the middle where our jobs meet. And the same thing on the west. IDOT is working on designing improvements to the intersection at Route 45 and our county highway, but that's further down the line. I don't know if there's a timeline for that, but they have started to study that. But the area in red is the portion of our project. Next slide shows a typical roadway cross section. You can see where it's one lane in each direction with a center bi-directional turn lane with two shoulders. And if and when the time comes where we have enough traffic to warrant additional lanes in each direction, we can unstripe the shoulders, stripe them as an extra lane. We have a 5-lane road, 4 lanes with a center turn lane. The next slide shows the intersection at Spruce and all the turn lanes involved, and that's given current information. We don't have anything from any developers for any sites adjacent that would affect our numbers right now, and we can't wait for them to, we'd be waiting forever. I mean, so if things change later, then they'll have to address that when they come to town. But you can see there's 2 lanes heading westbound up until Eagles Landing, where that lane, the right lane drops off. It turns into a right turn only lane into the subdivision, and then from that point on, it's a 1 lane in each direction. And the next slide is just kind of another extension of what I was talking about in the typical sections. You can see the 1 lane with a striped shoulder, so traffic won't be allowed on it. They'll do it anyway, but they're not allowed on it. The next slide I have is kind of a brief project funding summary. You can, between all the costs of engineering and construction, we're somewhere in the $9.8 million range. Funding's being provided by the MPO or the feds. You can see the left column, $3.855 million. We have Rebuild Illinois funding from the state in the amount of $3,813,000. Where we're working on getting additional funding is the $2 million. We're, I guess, in discussions to try to get additional funding from the state, and if not, I have other funds I can use. In addition, I have state matching tax, I have MFT. I don't want to have to use it, but if I have to, I can do that. Being that the project's about a 3-year job, it's not like I need a $2 million pile of money on day one. We'll get bills throughout the process, and we'll pay as we go. And the project shouldn't be finalized out till somewhere in 26, and then we'll have to settle up for the remainder then. And last is pretty much a project timeline. We spared you the detail of going back to 2008 when this really started, and just showed you starting from 2021 what we've been doing, and I'll let you read this for yourselves. No need for me to repeat it. But a little update on where we're at right now. we're aiming for a June letting. Right now, we've just completed the appraisal process on the parcels that we need to acquire to construct this improvement. Once the appraisal process has been finished, then we'll begin negotiating with, I think there's 10 parcel owners. And once we acquire that, we'll go to letting. And we're still aiming for June. And that's an update on County Highway 9 in Manteno.
Any questions, comments? All right. Moving on to the MFT discussion then.
Yeah, Andy asked me a question about what exactly could we use MFT money for, say on river projects. And I guess the short answer is not very much. If it's in our right of way, if it's involved with a roadway or a bridge, yes. We couldn't take it and go 3 miles down the river and remove a log jam. That's not the intent of MFT money. It's meant for improving roads and bridges. And so maintenance involved with maintaining the bridges, like removing log jams, yes. Putting riprap under bridges if we have a scour and the river's endangering the piers, we can put riprap along the piers, and MFT will allow us to pay for that. Pedestrian bike bridges, unless they're in our right of way, no, they're not going to allow us to do that with MFT money. That's kind of the short list of, basically, if it's in our right of way, we can use MFT money to use it for whatever we need to do.
Any questions about this? No? Do we have any other thing to add? Because we already talked a little bit about the State Line Bridge earlier today. So what else do you have to add to?
That was it.
Okay. So we're gonna move to bidding?
Yep.
All right. So today we have the bidding and letting, and we're gonna need a motion to open bidding and letting. Smith, Turner, second. Ms. Turner. Everybody in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Same sign. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, the first bid we have is for our county section 2450-20-GM. This is for aggregate that we pick up at the quarry in the use of our, maintaining the roads throughout the county. The first bid is from Prairie Materials. This is for their Manteno quarry. First bid is for CA6, commonly known as road mix. Their unit price is $9.60 per ton. Again, picked up at the quarry. The next item down is seal coat aggregate, CA16. That's something we'd use when we're spray patching. They're small, 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch chips. And we spray the oil on, put the chips on, and do a repair patch like that. Their price for seal coat aggregate is $16.30. And that looks like that's it for that. Next bids I have is from Vulcan Materials. Vulcan Materials has prices for 2 different quarries. The first quarry is the Kankakee Quarry on Lehigh Road, and their price for aggregate surface course Type B is $11.25 a ton. The price for seal coat aggregate is $18.45 a ton. The next set of prices is for their Mantino quarry. Aggregate surface course type B is $10.45 a ton. And their price for seal coat aggregate is $17.45 a ton. And just to reiterate, there is no low bidder in this process. We take these back and also figure in the cost that it takes for us to get the material and the drive, and so there's a certain distance from each quarry that it makes most sense to order stone from that quarry, and it's almost like calculus trying to figure this out. But we draw maps and figure out if we're in a certain area, which quarry we go to get the best price when you consider in the trucking that we have to pay to get there.
So what you're asking this committee is to have a motion to approve the bid upon your evaluation. Is that
correct?
Not the lowest and most responsible, but will be the one that you're going to be evaluating and figuring out after you look up the numbers to see which ones will work the best.
Right.
Mr. Snipes?
Before we make that bid, I just need to know, because I know we're not looking at the price, we're gonna leave that up to you, but I'm looking at, when I'm looking at the 960 versus the 1125 versus the 1045, and then the 1630 versus the 1845 versus 1745, and we're not looking at the lowest responsible bidder, but rather there's another science of math as to where they are in position to the quarry or something. So did they take that into consideration when they saw that, or are you just going to look at that and determine at some given point this one will work for this one because of where we're getting the stones or whatever it is from?
Correct. We actually draw up maps that show us where it is cheapest to go to this quarry. For instance, you have a quarry in Lehigh. They're pretty much going to be the quarry we use for the western half of the county, because Mantino is so much further away. It doesn't matter what they charged for it; it would cost too much to go get it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So if we have a motion here, and do you need anything else from this committee? Does that have to come back here after your evaluation, or was there be a green go for this?
I believe the motion should be to accept these prices, and then we determine the area within we use each quarry. We've used each quarry every year, and the only thing that changes is the area that we work from to go to that quarry. And like the circle around the quarry, if they have a low price, well, then their circle gets bigger. And that's what we determine when we take this back.
Okay. So. All right. Mr. Fetherland, can you?
I'd like to make that motion. The logistics upon the prices, the tonnage here, will be up to Greg and the staff to decide which one's closest, which one is less cartage. That's what we've always we've always done it that way here in the past.
We got a motion on the floor, Mr. Second? Second. Okay. Well, want to do this? Let me have a roll call on this, please.
Now, just to clarify, we're making this motion to accept it subject to the evaluative process of the engineer, right?
Yeah, this is what I heard from Mr. Fetherland.
Yep.
Correct.
All right.
Yes.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Rittmanick-Emmy? Ms. Turner? Mr. Wheeler? Mr. Wheeler? Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, then the next bidding we have is for the cost of culverts that we use to repair driveway entrances and failed culverts throughout the county.
I think we only made a motion to open the other ones, right? So do we have to make a motion to open this ones here? Is a separate one? Was that all together? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought we did it for all of them. But
Okay.
I don't remember.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, this is for the cost of metal culverts, and the first bid is from, actually, called Metal Culverts Incorporated.
The question to ask, I think.
Okay, hang in there a while. I've got a lot of prices to read. If you see the bid tab, I'll be reading them for every pipe on the bid tab here. The first round set of culverts are for polymer coated, and I'll just name the size and then the price per foot, and I'll just keep going. The first one for polymer coated is 15-inch. The price is $20.72 per foot. 18-inch is, the bid price is $29.74 per foot. 24-inch culvert is $39.65 per foot. 30-inch culvert, $65.62 per foot. 36-inch culvert is $78.20 per foot. Next is 18-inch equivalent round size, which is just a fancy way of saying oval pipe. That is $26.09. 24-inch equivalent round size price is $41.70 per foot, 77 cents per foot. 30-inch equivalent round size price is $50.80 per foot. And 36-inch equivalent round size price is $60.53 per foot. Now moving down to the next set is just plain old galvanized culvert. Doesn't have a coating on it. The first price is for 15-inch. That is $16.80 per foot. 18-inch is $24.70 per foot. 24-inch is $32.93 per foot. 30-inch is $56.36 per foot. And 36-inch is $67.16 per foot. I've got an envelope here. It doesn't say sealed bid or anything, but it says county board. Okay, I'm going to open it. Usually they say who they are. So we'll find out once I open this. This material proposal is from Contech. All right, start again with the polymer coated Class D Type 1 pipe. The first price is for 15-inch, $25.20. 18-inch is $31.50. 24-inch is $39.90. 30-inch is $59.90. 36-inch is $72.00. 18-inch equivalent round size is $33.40. 24-inch equivalent round size is $42.30. 30-inch equivalent round size is $53.40. And 36-inch equivalent round size is $64.60. Their prices for the galvanized culvert pipe: 15-inch, $16.80. 18-inch, $21.00. 24-inch, $26.60. 30-inch, $43.50. And 36-inch is $52.20. Now, we usually with these prices, one supplier may be lower in some sizes of pipe than the other. We take the lowest price between the two. We don't just total them all up and come with a grand total and take one supplier. If one guy is 15-inch cheaper, we're going to buy it from him. Another guy is 18, we're going to buy it from him. And so I guess I'm looking for a motion to approve the lowest unit prices per the two material proposals.
Mr. Federline.
Yeah, Greg, does that include cartage or delivery when they come?
Yes.
Okay, so that's included in that price per foot.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to make that motion, sir,
And the motion is?
to approve the prices presented.
Ms. Snipes.
I'll wait until you get the second approval. It's just that I need a clarifying question. I heard him say that we'll get the we'll look at the lowest of the two bids, and but what if they are equal? Like at the 15-inch of the galvanized glass, they're back there on this one. They are equal. They differ on the 30 and all that stuff, but on this one they are equal as far as price.
Well, I guess I'd say on the equals, they're both the low bidder, so we should have the choice. And I guess we'd ask, hey, who can get it here sooner? And sometimes that'll be the winner.
No.
We had a motion on the floor by Mr. Federline. Can I have a second, please? Okay, let's go with Mr. Kirkstra. I thought he was. He was not on the committee?
Yes.
Yeah, he is. All right. We have.
Roll call.
Yes, please.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling? Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Ms. Ribbinick-Emy? Ms. Turner? Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is the grand prize proposal. It's one I'm guessing everyone's sitting in the audience waiting to find out about. This is for microsurfacing in various locations within the county and different townships. And the first bid we have is from Microsurfacing Contractors, LLC. Okay, their apprenticeship form is filled out. Bid bond is included. Oh, this is probably going to take a while because the first four items aren't totaled up, and that's the total that determines the low bid. And we have four items that come to a total, and then one item that's an alternate bid. you have to bear with me, I'm gonna have to add 4 numbers together for each one of these guys, unless some of the other guys have totaled it up for me. All right. Okay, the grand total of the bid for microsurfacing contractors is $1,933,258.20 for the first 4 items, and then they provided an alternate bid for paint pavement marking, which is $9,925.45. The next proposal is from Benish Construction Company from Tuscola. Sheets are in different orders, and I have to try to find the bid bond and the apprenticeship certificate. Bid bond is included. Apprenticeship form is filled out. Okay, their grand total of the original bid is $3,149,155.88, and their alternate bid for paint pavement marking line is $14,596.25. The next bid is from AC Pavement Striping. Bid bond is included. apprenticeship form is completed. Okay, bear with me, I have to do some math on this one too, they didn't total it up. Okay, their base bid amount is $1,625,585.70. And their alternate bid for paint pavement marking is $16,347.80. So based on the three bids, appears the low bid is from AC Pavement Striping.
Okay. Questions or comments? No? Hold on, Mr. Snipes. Go ahead.
Microsurfing, is that was 1 million, what was it?
I think
1,933,258.20.
Oh, okay.
So in this case, we need a motion to approve the lowest, most responsible bidder.
The apparent, right now, the apparent low bidder is AC. We'll take these back, make sure all the math checks out, and if it does, AC is the low bidder.
Motion made by Ms. Clerkstra. Second by, okay, second by Mr. Snipes. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Rittman-McEmmey? Ms. Turner? Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That's all of the bidding.
All the bidding?
Yep, okay.
Now we get to even more of the fun stuff.
More of the fun
Reading
stuff.
pay estimates.
Correct. So for the county engineer pay estimates, I need a motion to combine. And approve, Ms. Turner. Second by Mr. Snipes.
Okay, all aboard, here we go. The first pay estimate I have is for pay estimate 2, Kankakee County, section 23-00306-00-BR. It's to Hampton, Lenzini, and Renwick. Invoices 3 and 4 for a total of $5,550, which comes from our paid for out of our county MFT fund. Next pay estimate is number Kankakee County, section 08-00286-00-FP. Pay estimate 7 to Hutchison Engineering in the amount of $64,854.99 to be paid for out of our Rebuild Illinois funds. Next is Kankakee County, section 24-00000-00-GM. Pay estimate 1 to Sherwin Industries. This is for the crack filling material that we ordered and we're ready to go with once the weather gets warmer out here, in the amount of $7,305.77 to be paid for out of our county motor fuel tax fund. Next is Kankakee County, section 24-00000-00-GM. Pay estimate 1 to SNI Solutions for salt brine material in the amount of $8,100 to be paid for out of our county motor fuel tax fund. Next, Kankakee County, Section 24-00000-00-GM. Estimate number 1 to Prairie Materials in the amount of $128.06 from the county MFT. This is for road mix to use on our highways. Next, Essex Township, Section 23-03-000-00-GM, Supplement 1, Pay Estimate 3 to Vulcan Construction Materials. Again, this is for road mix on the township roads in the amount of $540.14 to be paid for out of their township MFT fund. Next, Kankakee County, Section 24-00000-00-BI, Pay Estimate 1 to Engineering Resource Associates for bridge inspections services they provided us in the amount of $6,272.00 to be paid for out of our county bridge fund. And last is Janier Township Section 22-04108-00-BR, Pay Estimate 5 to Groff Testing Corporation. They perform soil borings for a proposed bridge in Janier Township, and that amount is $2,552 to be broken down between their township bridge program, the county bridge funds, and the Janier local fund. You can see the breakdown down below. And that is the last one.
All right, so is there any questions for Greg? No, we have a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Ribbonegger? Aye. Ms. Turner? Aye. Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're not gonna have the resolution. I think we're not,
Well, we're going to talk about it.
we're gonna talk, just an update on it.
Yeah, I was expecting the resolution to be final. I guess I was a little too optimistic. Heritage Prairie Solar and Wind Farm has been evaluating the roads with their own engineers, and they've compiled a 2,000-page report. I guess think of that as 2 reams of paper, double-sided, and they submitted that to us, and now it's our turn to review it. Well, we're intending to hire Hutchison Engineering to do that for us. Unfortunately, we're not going to do that until we have an agreement in place with the solar farm, and what that means is we'll hire Hutchison to do the review. The review costs will be paid for by Heritage Prairie, and right now we're in the process of fine-tuning the corrections to the agreement between the road Heritage Prairie and ourselves. We've already got an agreement with Hutchison, but they're not going to do any work until we have the other agreement approved. Once that gets, all the corrections get agreed upon, then hopefully I'll be back next week to submit that for everyone to vote on.
Mr. Featherling?
You had mentioned solar, and I think we're talking about wind, is that correct?
Both.
Both, okay, because down here it says wind project. So, okay. So basically renewable energy, is that what you're talking about? Renewable energies,
Right,
is
and
that what you're talking
they're
about?
planning to put all the towers throughout the county and a solar farm out, and I think it's in Essex.
Same company, okay. And then,
And all the impacts they're doing to our roads, they've submitted a report telling us what they need to do, what they think they need to do to fix our roads. And now we're gonna review that to
Gotcha.
see what we really think we need to do to fix our roads.
Okay.
So you're thinking about bringing this back to the committee next month?
If the corrections get all nailed down, but since I'm here, I might as well tell you what's in the works and what's possibly coming.
So it's just for an update and maybe for questions and comments, but there'd be no votes on this today. Andy?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. What's the role of the township road commissioners in this? Do they, I'm sure they're on their own, but do any defer to us to handle it for them? Some are small, don't have big staffs. I'm just curious on what if they have the same agreements that they have to execute.
We have rolled all this into one agreement between us, Livingston County, their townships, and our townships. The road use agreement will cover everybody, and the review to be done by Hutchison their answer will be the answer to everybody involved. So they're actually working for all of us. And again, to be reimbursed by the Heritage Prairie.
So just as a follow-up, there'll be one master document. I guess, does that have to be voted on by all those different people to accept that, or once they accepted the fact that there was going to be an overarching document, then that's all that needed to be done? You see why I'm asking this?
Yeah, I'm thinking we're all going to have to approve it, but we're all in agreement. All the road commissioners and the two, myself and Livingston County, we've all agreed to go in on this together, so we don't have 10 different documents floating around out there.
That sounds good to me.
Anybody else? Any other questions or comments? Nope. Moving on. Is there any old business? Any old business?
I did have something, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, sir.
I did want to mention that the delta, the funding gap on the 9,000 project is $4.5 million. I'm in conversations, much like I did with Armor Road, to get that covered by the state. I'm very encouraged by the Secretary of Transportation's willingness to, and the governor's office to engage in this conversation. So it's serving the major economic development story in Illinois, if you will, the biggest deal in years, and they're well aware of the fact that we got to get a lot of people in and out of this facility. So what you saw was a road project that could be easily converted, easily, absent the $4.5 million, converted to be a 5-lane cross section. So more to come on this. This is evolving, but I didn't hear no in all of the conversations I had with legislators and department heads.
Okay. Any new business? Any new business?
I need to make a motion. We go into executive session, Mr. Chairman, over employment matters.
Chairman Wheeler, I was actually informed that maybe we should wait a little bit, if you don't mind, for the fact that we don't have, I believe the State's Attorney's Office asked to wait a little bit on that. They still not have the full information on it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, they didn't reach out to me. I asked for this for today, so I didn't hear anything back. Not a problem.
So are you rescinding your motion then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion on the floor to adjourn, second by Mr. Kirkstra. Everybody in favor, signify by say aye.
Aye.
Anybody?